So I'm going to talk a little bit about camera distortion and some unfortunate things that just happened. I got excited because I've looked at Alimony where you can buy someone's photography to see the best photographs that are not distorted of the death mask were done before they remodeled it, because since they remodeled it, the death mask is almost flat up to the ceiling, so you can look in this glass case and look down at Joseph's death mask, whereas it used to be what I bought today. And it even was flipped around in perspective. It's hard to tell if you don't really look at something like before you buy it. It was flipped around. I think because it was flipped around, I was thinking this was a really good quality, even photo that was less, it just looked less distorted. But just indications, like I've cropped this, like Hiram's death mask is to, it's actually to his right because it was to his left. Even that eyebrow, I always look for that where you can see more of the eyebrow. It was on the other side. And so when I first looked at this, it was just nothing's matching. I'm like, what the heck? And then if you just bring this back and forth, you can see they're just standing slightly to the right of his death mask, whereas I'm standing, like I literally am like looking, I'm right in front of him, and then I angle my camera to be flat so the lens is flat, which is really hard to do and not be distorted. I need a ladder and permission, and I can't walk in with a ladder into the Church History Museum. I could maybe call them and make arrangements, and they kept saying I could grab this stool every time. I went in 2019, I went in 2021, 2 years later. Traveling, spending money, going to Salt Lake City. Anyway, I really, if you just do this, you can tell these are totally different angles of the death mask. It's a death mask. But just the shape of everything totally changes if you're not perfectly even. And so I could not get the nostrils, nothing to match. And the other thing is the lighting. And so when it was flat against the wall, the light's coming from above, really harsh lighting. And so Silver Peasant has a really good non-distorted photo. But when you're looking at like the mouth, since we aren't going to use this for analysis anymore, well, we'll just keep it down here, I guess. I'll take that away so you can see it better. It really looks like this super sharp line that the side of his mouth where it opens is really high up. But the death mask now, since it's laying flat, I mean, you see sort of that, what could be a scar possibly. You see the same thing actually on the left side of his mouth when you see it evenly lit as on the right. So, they shoved a paddle in his mouth in 1832 and a glass vial. So I believe there was a lot of damage to his lips and his mouth in 1832. I think that's really possible. Where it's just super dramatic right here. Whereas here you can see the side of his mouth actually matches quite well with my outline of the guy's face. And you just, even that scar, you can see I traced where that scar was in my guy's picture. Take that away. Okay. There's a scar right there. Anyway. And then something else I've just been thinking about. Because I'm too close, I just look at that. I'll give a link to my other video, but I show someone's example that I saved to my live feed on my old Instagram page, where all they did was stand closer and farther back, and several different distances with several different types of lenses. and how the dimensions of the face, like the nose, everything, like the distance from the nose to middle of eye, it's gonna change, you know, if you're using a different camera lens of your photograph of the death mask. And so when someone was arguing with me, I was like, well, can I see your photo of the death mask? Because I want to see if it's distorted compared to the photo I'm using. And then they just didn't want to talk anymore. But anyway. Let's take all this away. Talking about the lips a little bit. This is Twiggy, a famous supermodel. And you see how her upper lip kind of looks thin there. And it sort of looks, it comes down a little bit more in the middle. But it's hard, there's not a distinct fine line. You know, it's not, her lips are not perfect. And then you look at this picture with just more even lighting, with light coming from below. You can see her lip is actually not that thin. And it does come down quite a bit in the middle. If we just look at the death mask, you can kind of see it looks more very dramatic right here. But you do see it in the paintings though. But her lip is pretty similar. So people just not really necessarily seeing what I see and just trying to be super critical of my picture think he has too thin of an upper lip, that it doesn't come down. But if you look at it really up close, you can see that the middle of his lip comes down a lot lower than the sides. Like it's below where the mouth meets. So you do see these scars. I think you can see this was with an iPhone 13, so it can take really good photos of things. So I took a photo of the picture again, and you can see that scar. And so you just look up step deformity, which Dr. Niles Hare talks about. There's just so many things that I didn't know even a year ago when we decided to go ahead and just, well, I guess I was like, but I did believe and think even then, I'm like, I know there's more I can find out. I can go to Utah more easily right now, and I have visited quite a few times and found out a lot of things. That last visit in November, just being able to talk to people that knew all the books that had been written about photos or the artwork, and I was really hoping to find out about one painting, just knowing perspective and things, and just sort of lighting. You definitely can see there's a gravestone. So he died in Plano, Kendall County, Illinois. The sons of Joseph Smith lived in Plano, Kendall County, Illinois. Alexander had a baby there. Joseph Smith III had several children there. And so buried in Millington for sure. Joseph Smith III went to Millington in 1860. 1866 he moves to Plano. But J.S. Bibbins' photography is stamped as Newark. And you can click on here. This is Find a Grave. So, do we need to go back? There we go. And you can just come here to look at Lucien Foster's work. I just do several examples. Thinking about this also today, how you see the light is hitting. The lighting really matches in these two pictures of Phoebe and Wilford. And you can see his journal right here. It's August 1844, where he specifically states on the 23rd of August 1844 that he and his wife visited Lucien Foster. He just says Foster, but that we know there was a news article of him promoting, and we know Joseph Smith met with Lucien Foster and wrote it in his journal in April 1844. And then he recruited him to work on his presidential campaign. So, but you do see right here on this picture of Phoebe that the lighting is, there's a little bit of a lamp. I think it's a lamp. I think it's a gas lamp, and I researched that, and they definitely exist in the 1840s, 1844. But you see light is still hitting that background almost above her head, her whole head. So I've seen very tall gas lamps from that time period. And then looking at Emma Smith's picture, this perfectly matches the daguerreotype. I think theirs was flipped around, because see, the lighting is coming from the other side, and the light in her eyes is on the other side. Whereas here it's on our right, here it's on our left. But they believe this was done by Lucien Foster too. I definitely see, I mean, you could wonder if that's oxidation, but I think that background was just a little bit lower. And Wilford Woodruff, I think, was almost, not very tall, but you can almost see sort of that darker line up there, but then the light, if you look here, you see the light is coming. Very crisp image. It would be great to have a good quality copy of my picture, but again, I think it is Joseph Smith, and I do think the original must have been oxidized badly, like Emma's, because Julia Murdoch, I believe, borrowed Emma's original daguerreotype from 1845 and copied it in 1860s when she was still living in Missouri with her second husband, because her first husband died and her second husband was a drunk and awful, but I think it brought her comfort having pictures. And yeah, so someone did find her photo album, but it said Julia Murdoch Smith on the outside of it. It was a very nice looking family album. They really just look at the beauty of these daguerreotype cases. This case is very different from that one. And I wonder if that was put in here, because I've seen versions of this where it's not even in the case, but it looks blurred. And so some people think that's Lucien Foster's, but he actually looks younger to me here. He looks older in this one. So that's why I really think this is Lucien Foster's. But anyway, that's all I have for you today. Have a good day.